Welcome to the Houston Hustle, the podcast that spotlights the movers, the makers, and the doers shaping the city we love. Each week, we sit down with Houston's top entrepreneurs to talk who they are, how they built it, the principles that drive them, and what success means beyond the highlight reel. This is real hustle, real stories, real Houston. Welcome to Houston Hustle. I'm Dr. Paige Ward.
I'm Dr. Charlie Ward.
And today we have Dan Altom with Sunbelt Business Brokers, right?
That's right. Yeah, thank you.
So, welcome to the show. For those who don't know, tell us about who you are and what you do.
Oh, sure. So Sunbelt Business Brokers is a small M&A firm for small business owners to try to exit their business. We're a national franchise. Actually, I own the Houston market. We've been here for 32 years. We've got a team of 10 in the Woodlands office and a West Houston office, and we cover the greater Houston area. We do 20 or 30 transactions a year and just try to help as many business owners as we can.
That's awesome. So how did you get started in this?
So I graduated from Texas A&M with a finance degree, and then went to work for a CPA doing business valuation work and some securities transaction work. And then I ended up starting a daycare with a friend of mine, and we grew that partially in acquisitions through the Sunbelt Business Brokers office that I own now. And so I got to know those guys. We were always in growth mode and just around transactions. When I kind of worked myself out of a job there, the previous owner of Sunbelt said, "Hey, you need to come over here and partner up with me and figure it out." So 2019, bought the firm, and here I am doing deals.
That's awesome. What would you say like your ideal client is?
Ideal client, so we kind of have people ask, how big of a business or industry or something like that. And it's really more about, we do an analysis up front and say, can we help them and help them meet their goals and that kind of thing. So it's really just making sure that that we're a good fit. Mm-hmm. But, a good client that we're really good at in our box at Sunbelt is doing, less than $5 million a year in revenue, making maybe a few $100,000 in cash flow once we adjust it all. They're ready to sell. They don't have some kind of looming deadline, some things like that. But, it's every deal's a little different, and we try to, work it out. And if we're not a good fit, then we tell people.
Yeah, I would assume that this would help take a lot of the stress off of people who want to sell their business, because I know it can be such a process doing the evaluations and trying to find people and all that stuff.
Right. At the very least, we try to walk away from when we meet somebody that's interested in learning more, is just that, right? Try to educate them and at least leave them with a bit of knowledge on, hey, this is one data point on how we might be of service or what we think the market looks like, and if that fits, then great, but at least they know, so we try to at least walk away from those meetings with them at least knowing some more about how a transaction work, what it might looks like, some of the maybe even just the terminology in the M&A space, that kind of thing.
So okay.
It's a great service to have, because we've had a lot of people on the podcast who don't really have an exit strategy for the business that they've created. So yeah, I think it's really important to think out those details and bring it to light.
Yeah, it's still amazing to me how many business owners just aren't aware that that's an option. They think they're gonna, come to the end of their lease or whatever, or sell their property and kind of hand off their clients and, call it quits. And it's like, you have this thing that we can maybe do something with to help supplement the rest of your life on the beach or in the mountains or whatever.
Absolutely. I love that. So how do you primarily market your business?
Sure. So we, confidentially first, we keep everything, under wraps, right? Yeah. So we're not we don't broadcast a person's information everywhere. So it's very teasery information, ambiguous, just enough to kind of get somebody, try to get the appropriate buyers at least interested to engage with us, and then we go through the non-disclosure and kind of profile buyer and those kinds of things. But we cast as wide a net as possible. We've got a great buyer network here from our own history, use some tools in the market, and depending on the business and the industry and the size, there's kind of different platforms to go. So, but it's really about getting as many eyeballs on the business as you can, to try to create as much interest in as best a price possible as you can.
Yeah. So you help people who are selling, but do you also have people approach you who are like, hey, I'm looking to buy this type of business?
Sure. Well, yeah, all the time. Our clients are the sellers through the whole process. So I try to remind the buyers, I'm like, hey, I'm a great resource for you, and I can, anybody you need on your team or any information you need, I can help with that. But don't tell me anything you don't want the client to sell. Unlike real estate, there's not really a buy-side market or a buy-side agent kind of thing. So people come in and say, hey, I want to buy a business, show me all the businesses. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, I can show you all of our firm's businesses.
Right.
Then you got to go into the same conversation with the guys at Transworld or Certified or Murphy or kind of wherever. So it's a real fragmented market, which is, they didn't ask me, so I didn't make didn't make the rules, but that's how it is right now. So glad to be of service, and I talk to tons and tons of buyers that are like that, and it's just it's a task to try to buy a business for sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just like it is to start one, right?
It's definitely a task. So, what has been one of the most challenging aspects of this?
Of my business?
Yeah.
So I came from that childcare space, right? It's real consistent month to month, and this business is very much, it's super lumpy, right? And the sales cycle is super long because from when I first meet a business owner until we have a transaction, it could easily be a year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, we got to like each other, to make sure, we're going to be a good fit. But it's just a long time to go and so many things can happen. And there's just, you look back on every deal and go, how in the world do we ever get anything done,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of back and forth with that where you have to figure out the little details.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a while.
Yeah, there's 1,000 things that could come up and maybe only 6 of them are going to be important this time, right? Next time it's going to be, so we try to kind of go in much like you said, with the end in mind of what this transaction is going to look like and go, hey, here's where we think the challenges are going to be. So let's go ahead and get in front of it while we can and try to head it off at the pass.
That's smart. Where do you want your business to go?
Bigger and better, right?
Yes.
We're pretty high touch business. So, there's kind of I don't know if there's a hard line, but, a broker can only have so many deals going at once if they really want to service those clients very well. But our team as a whole over the last 5 or 6 years, since I've been there, has kind of elevated their game a little bit to where we're doing bigger transactions. So fewer transactions, but bigger and kind of more sophisticated transactions. So it's been a lot of fun to kind of see some of that.
Do you think you personally would want to open another franchise in another city sometime?
Interesting. Well, so Sunbelt's kind of scattered all over the country already, right? We actually had the San Antonio market for a while, and I just got approached about Corpus Christi, but I don't know if I'm necessarily the best trainer in the world. So,
yeah.
So I think it'd be hard to do that at a distance. I can hardly manage my team on the other side of town.
That's fair. That's fair.
How big is your team, would you say?
It's 10 brokers and a couple of support staff, and then we have some third-party contractors to do some things for us as well. So it's not a large group, but in the broker world, it's a fairly big team. But yeah, a lot of times it's onesies and twosies. So
okay, you said you still own the daycare business too.
That's right. I'm still a partner in that. Yes.
Okay. Well, how long have you been in that business?
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah,
How do you balance?
I was a mere child when I
running 2 different businesses then.
Right, so that business kind of grew to a point to where a lot of my roles and responsibilities got big enough to where it needed a person to do that.
You were able to delegate.
Yeah, so somebody took on all the accounting roles and somebody took on all the HR. I was the business guy. My partner's the educator.
Okay.
So it's kind of those roles got divvied out. I was kind of hanging out and trying to figure out who's going to go to lunch or happy hour with me, and they were like, you got to get out of here. I mean, we're trying to work.
Yeah, so then you're able to kind of delegate more of that and have more hands off.
Yeah, we have a fantastic team there. So
yeah, I mean, that's really important. Do you feel like it was easy to be able to delegate things?
I know where you're going with that. Yes. It was like a tipping point for me.
Yes.
And I was like, you know what? They're never going to do it just like me. That doesn't make it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just kind of one of those things where, and we'd always had a philosophy of empowering our teachers and folks to kind of, hey, this is your room. You do it how you want to do it, as long as it's within, kind of the box, right? So same with my roles. It was like, hey, if that's how you do it and I'm, you're the expert in this now, go for it, and I'm just gonna love it, right?
No, I mean, it can give you so much freedom. How do you feel so you work in your business, but how do you feel like you personally work on your business too?
Oh, right, I've been terrible about that. I believe in that, right? But
yeah.
In the business brokerage world, it's just, you bring on these clients and you develop these relationships, and it's just kind of, there's not really that same, here's the team, I'll see you at the end kind of thing. So I'm definitely working on that in the business, because that's the way to grow, is to make your team bigger and have more folks going and that kind of thing. So I think right before we started, we were talking about green time. It's like, where do I set aside that time to grow the business rather than just try to get these deals done?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the things that we focused on this last year, is just setting aside CEO time, 3-hour blocks of okay, I can't see anybody. I'm just going to focus on the things that are going to continue to grow and develop my business.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, you just implement yourself.
My calendar blocking's got to get better, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Have you had some really challenging or difficult times or issues with your business at all, or?
Well, I mean, sure, right? I mean, everybody does. We're as much counselors as we are advisors with a lot of our clients, and so there's a whole lot of late nights, talking people off the ledge, because it's their business is their baby, and they have a legacy and they want all these things, and maybe the deal's not going together quite exactly right, and some of those things, when we have a joke in the office, from the world now, that if everybody walks away from the table equally mad, then we maybe catch on.
That's funny.
Which we try not to do that, but we have definitely had some less than stellar deals come together that they're just stressful, and you need to see that and that kind of thing.
That's part of business, though. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have the ups and downs like that. Do you feel like COVID impacted you guys at all?
Oh, sure. I can remember that day for sure because we have we have the deal board where we had like I think 9 deals going to closing, and of course it just got wiped. And that's just like, well, okay, now what, right? We don't have a ton of overhead, so
Yeah, that was nice.
yeah, it was like, well, we can kind of figure it out. And I think of those 9 deals, 6 of them ended up closing. One of them ended up just not doing anything, and 2 of them went out of business.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it was a big deal. And then of course for still now we're having to we have an AT company that their financials look wacky, and it's like, hey man, what happened here? And he's like, well, we're still dealing with supply chain disruption, and we had to buy stuff in this year instead of this year, and so there's PPP, all the things, right? So you have to adjust for all that stuff when you're trying to figure out. Here we are, 6 years later, still fooling with it,
feeling the impact.
Yeah.
Do you feel like buyers are like pretty understanding of things like that, or?
I think so. I don't know how it happened, but real quick, like banks, valuation companies, buyers, everybody kind of involved in the M&A process got on board with like, hey, this was a thing. It happened to all of us. Here's how we're going to kind of collectively agree to control for it. And so for a while, it's like, let's look at 2019 numbers and we'll use that as our base. We'll just throw 2020 out, or whatever. So yeah, I think people have been real accommodating, not necessarily accommodating, because it's real,
Right.
It happened and there's a reason and all the things. So everybody's kind of gone.
There was just a lot of scenarios that were outside of people's control.
None of our clients have been beat up on it other than just, we've had some clients that never recovered from COVID. They're, 2019 versus 2025 is still lopsided, but that's just kind of, it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, the nature of it.
Yeah. But nobody gets beat up on because of that year.
How do you feel like your business has changed from day one?
From day one. So the guy I bought the business from was kind of a mentor of mine, and he stuck around, which is not usual in a transaction, So
that's nice, though.
It was just interesting because it was that whole, this is how we've always done it. Can we make some changes? That kind of thing. So, but something COVID did for us was kind of, my team is a little more, we'll call them experienced. So, computers and things are, not quite the thing. Yeah, there you go. They're experienced in deals too. It really drug us into some technology things just because you kind of had to use DocuSign, you had to use video calls, you had to do these things that they just did not want to do. And so me and my office team kind of jumped on, okay, we're really going to streamline and modernize this a little bit more. And that's really helped. So I think even though we're still archaic, in my opinion, when I go to conferences and things, we're still way ahead of the game.
Yeah, things are changing at such a rapid rate. But yeah, I think a lot of people now want DocuSign stuff. It's just so convenient. So I think COVID, to an extent, while it did force people to change things, that was for the benefit overall.
I think so.
So not everything was negative, right? There were some positives that came out of that.
I still like being in the same room with somebody when we're talking about stuff, and people are real quick to jump on a video call, and it's not the same, but it's like, well, okay, if that's how we have to do it, then okay.
Yes.
Do you feel like AI is starting to impact?
Everybody's talking about it, right? So we use some tools already that I have to ask our guy if he considers them AI or not. But they kind of, auto do some things. So it depends on what your definition is. I'm still barely getting to use, get to know Gemini kind of thing. But it's helping people write better content and get some better material out there from our marketing standpoint now, instead of just us being just poor writers. We get a little bit better stuff to go out to the buyers to be like, hey, this is a great business, and Gemini and Cloud say so.
Well, yeah, because you can just know what the gist of what you want to say, and then it can make it sound a lot more articulate, professional. So that can be really beneficial as well. Okay, so you can't tell us details, but but have you had any really picky, finicky situations with sellers before?
Sure. Well, they may not end up being clients, right? If they start telling me exactly who the buyer's going to be, like if they're that kind of picky, the buyer has to be this and this and this and this and this, I just see my buyer pool shrinking down. It's like, well, if you already know who the buyer is, then you should just call them. Right? So stuff like that. We try to kind of educate them on keeping an open mind. And one example is well, I'll never do any seller financing. It's like, okay, so if I bring you an offer for $1 million in cash or $1.1 million in cash with $100,000 in seller financing, which one are you going to take? Is seller financing really that bad? And so you get an extra $100,000 maybe, just some things like that, some examples on, well, maybe we should just wait and see kind of how it comes together before you decide that I'm not doing something.
What do you feel like is the big pull against financing? I know cash, you're going to get that money right away. Is it just the time thing?
So that's one of our things, right? We want to, put you in front of as many buyers as you can, maximize your selling price, but then we also want to maximize what you get at closing, because we're just, that's how our team is built. We want you to get as much money at closing as possible. And you can talk to me about kicking the can on taxes and getting the interest. And all the things, but it's like, if that money's not in your pocket, it's not in your pocket, you know? So that's how we approach it. So I may be a bad answer. And most sellers, once they kind of think about it, are like, yeah, that, I kind of want my money. And it's like, well, sure, you know, because if you're relying on this person now to do these things to maybe repay you, and you're subordinate to the bank, and, you know, all these things, you're way down the totem pole for, you know, things go sideways.
That's a valid point.
Do you think a lot of business owners have a good idea about what their business is worth, or do you think a lot of them overinflate?
I think you already know the answer to that. Now, you know, so I don't want to know their opinion, actually, because then they have to defend it. You know, when I come in with my estimate of value, or what I think we should go to market with, it's twofold. One is like, hey, here's what I think your business should sell for and why. You know, and I have a bunch of data to go with it, an experience, and then I'm also going to walk through, hey, here's what I think you're going to walk away with, which that's really the most important number, right? Yeah. So sometimes they're not happy with the maybe the price, but when I say, well, hey, you're gonna, you know, some things about the transaction they may not realize, like you keep your cash. In most cases, in our size transactions, got a caveat everything, right? You keep your cash, keep your AR, you know, those kinds of things. You know, your net number, and they're like, oh, well, that's what I needed.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, okay, well then, great.
Yeah, that works.
There's definitely been some times where it's like, you can go now.
People approach you, I don't know how often this happens, but if people ever approach you and they're like, I want to sell my business X many years down the road, and then like you could give them ideas for things they can do to improve that potential price.
Sort of, kind of. I wish more people did that.
Yeah.
Back to your comment about the exit in mind. I mean, they just don't think about it soon enough. To me, it's like, you can't start early enough, right? So, and come in and get a benchmark pricing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey, we'll sit down with you and say, hey, this is what your business is worth now, and why we think that. And then, no, we don't really get into the consulting side of it. But in my opinion, most business owners, they know deep down inside, they know what they need to do.
Yeah.
You know, so once they see how it works, they're like, oh, okay, you know. And so it's like, hey, if this is the number now, and you need the number to be X in however many years, like it becomes a math problem with that, you know, and then they kind of back into the, well, I gotta get revenue up, right?
Right, like reverse engineering. If I want to be here, what do I have to do to make that true?
We've had a couple clients that have come in and done that, and then they show back up a year later, and they say, hey, we did some stuff, and here's my books, and it's like, whoa, okay, let's go.
How do you feel like, you said, with your business, there's a lot of ups and downs versus like steadiness. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel like you prep your mindset for that?
I got into the business. I did some due diligence, before I bought the business. It was very much, so I know, eyes wide open, right? Even with my clients, it's like, hey, we want you to meet this business owner and hear what they do during the day and what a day in their life looks like. So you can be eyes wide open on what you're getting into, so I did the same thing. And it was, very much like, you can't forecast more than 90 days out financially in my business. That's kind of how I approach it, which is terrible for planning and all the things, right? But it's just kind of the nature of the beast. So just kind of, put the stress down and, I don't know, figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Play golf and forget about it.
For our listeners, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Oh, sure. SunbeltTexas.com is our website. And if you, Google Dan Altom on LinkedIn, that kind of thing. And we've got a team. So our guys have different expertises just from being around certain industries. So if you're, maybe an auto care place, we're going to send you over to Ron. Or if you're a med spa, you can talk to Ken, that kind of thing. So
do you offer like bilingual too?
David Quintanilla is our bilinguist. Is that a word?
Yeah, I think so.
It up, yeah. So, and Jim and I can probably do it for us.
Oh, right. These days, there's like all sorts of stuff that you can
Google Translate.
Yeah, Google Translate. There you go. So pretty easy to find. But SunbeltTexas.com is the best way to kind of connect to us.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being on our show.
Hey, thank you guys.
We'll see you guys next week.
You've been listening to Houston Hustle, celebrating the entrepreneurs who are shaping our city. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone building their own dream. Until next time, keep building, keep learning, and keep hustling.